So we are back in the garage and things are moving on. As you know, the ECU is back. I've just taken the power commander off, and I've fixed the wiring as well. Let's throw some light on this subject. I've put some insulation tape on the wiring where I've had the power commander fitted. I put a separate bit of wire on the a separate bit of tape on the wire that I actually had the connector on, and then just chuck some more insulation tape around it to make that nice and safe. Make sure we got no bare wires there. I've put all the injection connectors back on, and I've pushed this wire, I don't know if you can see very well, I've pushed this wire back in place. So yeah, that's all as it should be now and ready to go. We'll just push that one on like so. So they're all on, ready to go. Yeah, so that was a bit of a bummer. I didn't spot that, but I'm actually quite excited now because the bike's a lot more powerful than I thought it was. I already thought it was good, and I was only running on 3 fuel banks, so that's good. I'm happy that I found the problem as well. So let's get this ECU on. As you can see, that's the dyno jet off, removed. There was no problem at all with the power commander. Nothing wrong with any of the connectors here. It's all good, and that will go up for sale, providing the ECU does what it says it's going to do. So I'm placing my faith in Hilltop. Let's hope they're good for what they say. So let's get things back together, basically. I need to put those connectors on that I had off for the power commander. So I'll put that one back on. That's that one in place, and the other one in place. Make sure they're correctly fitted. Yeah, and we've got the fuel tank connectors there. All the other wires are in place. Okay, so let's get the ECU on. So that's it, ECU wired on, wires rip-tied in place. We'll just give all the wires and connectors a check over to make sure everything is in the right place and as it should be. Make sure everything is good. One last check before we put the tank back on. That's all in place, all those wires there. That's all good. Battery still yet has to go back in. So I think we're good to go. Let's get the petrol tank on and get this all back together again. Right, so that is the ECU now back in place. All the plastics back in place. All the wiring is good, I hope. And now we've got to put the battery on and do a procedure with the key as well. Now there are some strict instructions to follow from Hilltop Motorcycles here about the reinstallation of the ECU. What they're saying here is please read these instructions carefully at least once before you follow them. You must follow them exactly, so if it's not clear, please contact us before reinstalling your ECU. Step 1 is imperative that the battery is disconnected from the motorcycle. So we've got the battery off, and then it says reconnect the ECU. So that is done. Step 3, with the key in the ignition or placed right next to the ignition switch for keyless models, but do not turn on. Reconnect the battery. So you've got to put the key in the ignition, but don't switch it on. All right, so the bike's off. Yeah. Now we have to put the battery back on. Right. So that's the battery connected. Now we go on to step 4, which says to hold open the throttle at 100% open and do not let go. And with the throttle still held fully open, turn on the ignition, but do not start the engine, and allow for all the checks to complete, and then turn off the ignition and then close the throttle. Right, so now we've got to open the throttle to 100%, switch it on, let it do all of its checks, I'm pretty sure it's done all of its checks. I'm going to switch it off. And it says then turn off the ignition and close the throttle. So throttle is off. Then it says with the throttle fully closed, turn on the ignition but do not start the engine and allow for all the checks to complete, and then turn off the ignition. Okay, so switch it on. Don't start up the bike. Allow it to do all of its checks. I think that's all of it now. Then turn off the ignition. Ignition off. Right, so that's it now. I've gone through all that. Now what I've got to do is turn off the ignition, which I've done, and now without touching the throttle, start up the engine and allow it to idle for 3 minutes and go thrash the fuck out of it. Spot on, guys. I'm up for that. So right, here comes the first startup, guys. Wish me luck. Fingers crossed. Here we go. 3 minute idle as well. Hope you're ready for some noise. Here goes nothing. Ready? Here it goes. It's running. It's working. Notice how this is kind of fluctuating a little bit. No, it's not so much. Not so much now. So when it first started up, the revs were kind of going up and down, fluctuating. Sorry if I'm shouting, a bit too loud. And now the revs are evening out. Can you see that? Cool. Right, so that's it. It runs, it works. I don't know if you kind of saw, I don't know if it was maybe because it was cold, but the kind of needle was fluctuating quite a lot when I started it up. It's not something I've really studied before, but I noticed usually I think it just kind of holds a rev, and it was kind of quite fluctuating. And as those kind of 3 or 5 or 6 minutes went, the needle kind of settled down more. And that'll be interesting. There is still just a slight little fluctuation every once in a while, but it'll be interesting to see if that completely goes away. So now all that's left to do really now is to ride it. I mean, I've still got to do the air positioning sensor. I've still got to do the oil change and the tyres, but sod it. Let's go for a ride. Let's take it out, guys. Tune in to the next video where I go for a ride. I hope it's not been too long a video for you all. Thanks for watching. It's alive again. Yay! Thanks for watching, everyone. Ride safe. Cheers now. Bye.